I think 2009, 2010, a lot of wind development is going on in the U.S. and a lot's going on in Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma built their first wind farm about 2001. By 2009, we've got wind farms popping up all over the place. And so, according to the tribal members that I've talked to, they started first hearing whispers about wind energy coming to Osage County in 2009. And let's be honest, the tribe never wanted wind development in
Yeah.
Osage County. They valued their landscapes. They valued their vistas. They have, one of the largest the largest remaining tallgrass sanctuary in the U.S. is still in Osage County in southern Kansas. So I think it's fair to say most of the tribal members were not enthused about having wind come to their community. And in fact, I think that, and of course, the bald eagle is sacred to them, and they knew that was going to be the bald eagle would be impacted by wind turbines. So early on, the tribe went to court and asked the court to stop the development of the wind farm up there, basically because of their traditional values. Even though they didn't own all the surface, they just said this is still our reservation, and we still would like to stop it. And the federal court says you really don't have a basis for stopping this. If there's private surface owners who want to develop their surface and they want to sell the rights to develop a wind farm, we don't have a basis to stop it. So the wind farm proceeded. And as you know, generally when you buy a wind lease, because you guys do this type of work, when you buy you're buying a lease from the surface owner to put a wind farm. You don't need mineral rights to build a wind farm. It's like in the oil and gas business, you have to have a surface right so you can locate your drilling rig, but you also and your facilities. But you also have to have the mineral rights. But on a wind farm or a solar farm, you don't need the mineral rights to develop a wind farm or a solar farm. And so the company that eventually became NL did not do the original development, but they did eventually
They bought the project.
bought
Yeah.
into the project. NL, which is a European, Italian-based energy company, a big renewable developer in the U.S. and around the world. They came in and they had these surface leases, and they were completely within their rights to build this wind farm. And as you guys know, when you own a surface ownership, you also have the right to use a reasonable amount of the subsurface for the enjoyment of the surface. So, for instance, if I wanted to if I bought a little tract of land in Osage County and I wanted to build a house, I could build a foundation for the house. I could build a swimming pool. I could build a basement. I could go into the subsurface because the surface owner is afforded a reasonable use of the subsurface. I'm not allowed to mine the minerals underneath but I am allowed to go into the subsurface for the reasonable enjoyment of the surface. So had NL just done that, they would have been fine. So they dig down these massive, and they are massive
Yeah.
um, foundations for these wind, because you've got wind turbines that are standing 400 feet tall, and you got huge pressures against them. So you're digging down a foundation, you're pouring steel and concrete into the ground to hold this massive wind turbine. And they did dig these holes, and they had every right to dig these holes, and then they put these foundations in. But what they didn't have the right to do is to take the material that was dug out of the holes and to make commercial use of it. And they had taken the rock that came out of the ground, and they had taken it to a rock processing plant, and they had crushed it, and they had refined it, and they had sorted it and made it into commercial grade materials, which they then used illegally. So when
What
the
was their what was their use of it, Doug? So
so I think they used it for the concrete. They used it to mix in to make the concrete for the foundations. And I've been told, now I don't know if this has been documented, but I've been told that they also used it for the roads and the pad
okay.
sites and stuff. So they
Mhm.
used it for the construction of the site. And
And in your research with the Osage and this whole story, was the rock that was extracted within the pads, or did they reach outside of those pads? Did they have a broader mining
They did both.
effort?
They did both. They took the
Okay.
rock from the excavated holes, but they also, because they didn't have enough rock from those holes, they actually open pit quarries adjacent
Yeah.
to these and mined
Yeah.
additional rock. And we have pictures of this. I think there's a picture in the article showing the wind turbine and adjacent to it, like a 50 or 60-foot wide pit that's 30 feet deep, that where they were excavating additional rock besides what was just taken out. So
Yeah.
and had they wanted to use that material, they should have had a mining permit from the mineral owner. Now, in some cases, the surface owner and the mineral owner are the same. So if you go buy a wind lease from somebody and they own the surface and the minerals, you could lease the surface. Or if you think the rock underneath the property is valuable and useful, you can incorporate that into your wind turbine lease.
Yeah.
That's your agreement, whatever agreement. But NL did not have a mining lease because the mining lease had to come from the tribe. So after they excavated the first hole, the tribe very astutely notified NL that they didn't have the right to use that rock. They said, look, you have the right to build the wind farm. We don't like it, but you have the right to do that. You do not have the right to take our rock. And they thought that, if NL had been smart, they would have just basically stopped using the rock. They should have just piled it up in a pile next to the thing and not used it. They could have brought in concrete from Tulsa or Sand Springs or wherever. They could have bought material outside. They could have, but they didn't. So they continued mining the rock illegally. Again, not just excavating it, but crushing it, refining it, sorting it into commercial materials. So now the Indian tribe, the Osage tribe, then goes to the Bureau of Indian Affairs in Washington, D.C., and says, this is what's happening to us. We need your help. The Bureau of Indian Affairs researched the matter, and they came to the same conclusion that they were illegally mining this rock. So the Bureau of Indian Affairs then sent a cease and desist letter to NL at their home office in Rome and said, if you want to keep building the wind farm, fine. But if you're going to use the rock, you need to stop until you get a permit. NL basically was rude. They did not respect the sovereignty of the nation. They didn't respect the Bureau of Indian Affairs, believe it or not, and they kept mining the rock. It's almost unconscionable.
Yeah.
And I think, we sometimes think that some things are too big to fail. And I've had several of the tribal members say, as soon as that letter went to NL, the NL, instead of just constructing during the day, they accelerated their construction and started doing 24-hour operations. Now, I mean, I don't have my own, that's just what I'm told by tribal members.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is that presumably they recognized they had a problem. They wanted to get the wind farm finished as quickly as possible because once it was built, presumably they believed that once it's built, nobody's going to make us tear it down.
Yeah.
I mean, get it built.
Too big. Yeah. It's unfathomable.
Too big to fail. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they went ahead and finished the wind farm. They continued using illegally mined rock to finish the wind farm. They put it on production, I believe, in 2015. And since 2015, they've been making lots of money off of federal subsidies, and they've been making lots of money selling electricity. Well, not only was everyone was appalled at their audacity for continuing to do this blatantly after being warned not to. So the federal government then sued NL for trespass and for illegally mining without a permit.
So the federal government stepped in at that point.
Yeah. United States of America versus NL. And they sued on behalf of the Osage Nation. And this has wound its way through federal court for 10 years. And then in December, it took from 2014 till 2023.